My spirit is infinite. I don't waste moments on what's insignificant. Moments move different when you discipline. Silence teach lessons they never mention it. My bloodline needs healing. I'm reaching for magic beyond what's indigenous. Not just the drums or the rituals, but the knowing that live in the sinew and ligaments. I walk slow, but I ride.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I'm the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Ritwan Hill, and with me I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ambassador of Peace. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask ChatGPT, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, man, happy Friday. How's it going?
Happy Friday to you. On some fronts, it's going swimmingly well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I wanted to start this segment with a conversation that I was having with one of my constituents. I was asking him about the podcast, right? Telling him, I want to know what your thoughts is. I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting the engagement that I would like. And he was telling me, he was saying, man, I think people want to hear more of the how, how you did it, how you got to the point that you were at, And I thought about it, and I had a conversation with you in the back, and it's like, Ritwan, people need to know about the journey that it took to get to that how, and not the actual how, right? And so I just wanted to be fully transparent, open, because I never see myself being in the position of doing a podcast, being in a position where I'm talking to multi-billion-dollar, not just talking to multi-billion-dollar companies, but the fact that I have those relationships and now I'm in the fourth quarter going after opportunities. I couldn't imagine back then myself being in this position. But, as we always talked about, it wasn't an overnight thing. It definitely wasn't. I've been connected at the hip with you for like almost 3 years now. So it was an uphill journey that I truly had to go through.
Well, why don't we flip the script today, and why don't I do a little interviewing of you, and maybe I'll be able to extract a little bit of that how for the audience.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, why don't we they say start at the beginning, right? And so let's talk about how you found yourself in a position to be the protege, the only protege, right, of Walter Cotton. How did the whole relationship start out? Where did you meet Walter Cotton?
Man, like, not to be too long-winded, but it was a full circle moment for me like a couple of months ago, because the journey of how I got here ended up being all the people I ended up being interconnected with, so just from a conversation I had with somebody from procurement science, him introducing me to Mr. William Randolph, who you guys will see me, who you've seen me interview in the past. And if you didn't, please check out CEO at the Gas Pump, and that episode, along with the episode with Mr. Cotton. But I met, he introduced me to this Mr. Randolph because I was just trying to figure out how to get my foot in the door to federal contracting. And I was asking him about I was like, yeah, I was going to, look at micro purchases and get some $10,000, get some contracts that credit card purchases so I could build out my past performance. And he said, you should check out the William Randolph, and he has this thing called micro markets. So long story short, I got connected with him. And then I think maybe the next day or two, I saw the VA booth. They have a YouTube channel, or VA Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. They had a webinar, and it popped up. I had my notification turned on, and the notification popped up that says, why SDVOSBs matter. And I will never forget that. And I tuned into it, especially because I saw Mr. William Randolph, and I had just talked to him. Then I saw Walter Cotton. Then I believe it was also William Bill Elmore as well. And so I was like, okay, I'm an SDVOSB, and I definitely want to know what this is talking about. long story short, I came into the video late, so I only caught like the back end of it. But I caught Mr. Cotton talking about joint venturing. I didn't fully understand the diagrams he had, but he said joint venturing. I know that was also one of the things that I was looking into, because I just learned about different ways you could team, whether that's subcontracting, teaming agreements, and joint ventures. And from there, he said, for everybody who attended, I have this free, I'll give, I'm giving a free consultation or something of that nature. And, just a little cotton in your ear. I remember that. And I might have sent the email twice, I think, because I reached out to the individual who's hosting it. I can't remember his name, Brandon, Mr. Brandon Curtis, I think. And I reached out to him.
Curtis Brandon, Mr. Brandon over at the VA was the host. Yes.
Yeah. And I reached out to him multiple times because I didn't get your email address. So I asked him for your email address, and he gave it to me. And from there, I was able to reach out to you, and to the point where I was able to have that conversation with you. And you told me about the superpower that we have as service disabled veterans. And I was like, all that makes perfect sense to me. And without hesitation, you sent me an agreement. And I didn't know at the time that was like a normal.
Well, before we open the kimono and let them know the extraordinary nature of our relationship and how the universe saw fit to cover the fact that you couldn't afford to pay attention when the relationship first started. You talked about the superpower, and you talked about joint venturing at the beginning of this opening, and you suggested to the audience that you had no idea that you would be in a position where you are in a relationship with companies that are multi-billion-dollar, multinational companies.
Yeah.
I'd like you to explain to the audience what kind of strategic alliance relationships you have, and what kind of opportunity that provides for you in the federal space. Like, do you have a relationship with a manufacturing concern? Do you have a relationship with a butts and seats group? Like, what kind of relationships do you have?
I would say all of the above. And I know that may seem vague and broad, but the truth is, when you sit at the footstool of somebody like Mr. Cotton, who has the pedigree that he has, and when you hear 150 billion, you could kind of imagine that's not an ordinary pathway or ordinary trajectory that you're taking. So the fact that we have relationships with large tribal concerns, with agencies like Ability One and the nonprofit agencies that they have, to be in relationship with multi-international, multi-billion-dollar organizations is all in the ecosystem. Now, if you understand those at a granular level, you understand, or if you're in this federal space, you understand that a lot of those tribal concerns have multiple subsidiaries that has a diversified portfolio, the same as Ability One and the nonprofit agencies that they have under their umbrella.
Well, wait a second now. We don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce, because they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But so you're saying that you have commercial corporations that are multinational corporations that have partnered with you because of your disability or your service-disabled veteran status, and your know-how, and you've said that you've got MPAs under the Ability One program that have partnered with you in tribal concerns as well, right? So suffice to say that you've got capability and capacity, right? And that you are contract ready and contract viable, meaning you have a scalable solution. Is that reasonable to say?
Yes, sir. That is reasonable to say.
I mean, could I accurately define you as a bigger service disabled veteran owned small business?
Yes, that's exactly what we formed. And I do want to just touch on what you said about having the service disabled veteran status and the know-how, right? I don't want that to go over anybody's head. It's not just having the service disabled veteran status. You got to have the know-how or how to weaponize that service disabled veteran status as well.
And on that note, I know that there are a lot of small businesses out there that are trying to figure out which way the wind is blowing as a result of what this administration has done with dismantling DEI and consolidating and centralizing of contracts. And I'm seeing a lot of people participate in a cycle of insanity from a procurement perspective, in my opinion. Meaning change has occurred in the environment, but they're doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Like a lot of people are rushing to these conferences when in tomorrow's acquisition environment, access is king. If you're not on the medallion, if you're not on the MSA, you're not on the contract, you don't have access. So going to these conferences, which are still funded as a part of last year's appropriation, right, is really a waste of time. And so I understand that while these small businesses are out there bumping their head up against the usual suspects in conferences, you're doing something novel in this fourth quarter to help contracting officers who may find themselves in trouble. Can you open the kimono just a little bit and explain to the audience what your strategy is, what your value proposition is to the contracting officers in this fourth quarter?
Absolutely. I coined us as a universal adapter. And simply put, what that means is we can engineer a solution to any requirement. And I know in this space, that's like, I would say blasphemy, because it's like, well, you need to have this capability and you need to lead with this capability. But if you understand that the superpower, or in other words, the capability of the service disabled veteran that you have, that you can go in any industry, long as you put the right pieces in and configure the right teams, you could go in any industry that you like and dominate. And we've been getting a lot of positive, a lot of strong feedback from the 1102 community with this solution. So what we decided to do was to put together this fourth quarter of powwow, this SDVOSB powwow 1102 acquisition solution to just pretty much give the ready partners, the veterans, the 1102 professionals a water in the hole or town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it. Give you guys
let me go back and refocus your narrative on the question that Mr. Williams Bay asked, which was the how, right? Because what we're talking about here is the event that you've set up for the 1102s. But the question that I want to help the audience understand is how, right, you are able to, what words do I want to use, dynamically engineer the exact fit for the contracting officer who's facing a hard problem in the fourth quarter. So let me give you a scenario, right? I'm a contracting officer. I've got very little fiscal year left. I've got about $100 million worth of 8A contracts. I'm going to specifically dial them into 8A contracts that have been unhooked, and I need to put those contracts, I need to obligate those dollars before the end of the fiscal year, right? I come to you and I say, Mr. Hill, I've got this couple $100 million worth of 8A contracts. How could you help me with your universal service disabled veteran, right, bigger small business adapter? How could you help me award those contracts in the 60 days that I have left in the fiscal year?
Yes, sir. So there are acquisition pathways that allow you to dynamically form those teams. And within those teams, we also have the FAR Part 19 rewrite that allows those contracting officers to award those contracts that were previously in the 8A program to another social economic status. We understand because of DEI, we understand that most other social economic statuses are obsolete or they're considered high risk. So that leaves the SDVOSB as king. We're based off of merit. Either you serve or you didn't. So the fact that we have that coupled with a team that has the capacity and scalability to handle different types of contracts of any size, of any type, we give them an easy button. We give them, I don't want to say we give them the easy button.
Padawan, you have learned well because you described that in a granular fashion without telling the audience exactly what your secret sauce is, which is fantastic because we know that a lot of people like to lurk and learn on the material I share. And so if you're a contracting officer out there and you're wrestling with the hard problem that Mr. Hill just described, there will be an email address going across the bottom of this screen. If between now and the end of the fiscal year, you want to take a service disabled veteran and reward him for his service and deliver a bigger small business solution to your challenge, holla at your boy, right, Mr. Hill?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I do want to say, that wasn't something that came natural, and I do want to make sure that my generation or anybody who's looking to get into federal contracting or already, registered and they just need to get to that next level. This was not a overnight thing. Like I said, it was a steep hill that I had to climb, and being a minority and not coming from a type of environment where you learn that type of stuff, it's a longer journey, but the journey is worth it. I had to kiss a lot of frogs. I could, just full transparency, I know a lot of small business would have killed for this opportunity where I was talking to a multi-$100-million company and the chief growth officer said, yeah, we put them on 3 subcontracts. And I said, no. I told him no. And I know that's probably crazy to a lot of other small business, especially who just getting in, like they would jump on the opportunity. But because I fully understand our superpower and the fact that if we joint venture, we can not only do prime contract, we could go after as a team as a prime contractor. We could do subcontracts too. We could do commercial work too. So we could do this and that versus, only accepting the crumbs. I'm gonna call it for what it is.
Well, you talked about your journey, and I think it's important for me to stop looking like the proud papa here and ask you some questions about the origin of that journey because clearly you came from somewhere to get where you are today, and we've got some video artifacts of the more radicalized version of Retwan Hill. It reminds me of that scene in the movie Django where the guy asked him if he knew how to spell Django, and he said the D is silent because that's what Retwan Hill told me one day. He said it's Retwan, the D is silent. But let's talk about how you found yourself in this position of favor and the commitment that you had to make for your dream. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and it goes back to what what I was about to dovetail into earlier. Once I got that agreement, I didn't know what I was looking at, but I'm inspired by Nipsey Hussle, and that what really got me in the business. Just listening to his music and really receiving the message. I was all money in. I didn't know what I was really getting myself into. That was the first time I ever seen a consulting agreement of any type. So I didn't fully.
And I can attest to that, folks. He had no idea that he was looking at an agreement that had I think it was like a $50,000 obligation with monthly payments and the like. But carry on, please.
Yeah. And, so I just signed the agreement being naive and, I won't say just being naive, but understanding what he was telling me, and I saw the value in it. So it was like a no hesitation, a no brainer thing, you know. So I signed the agreement, and you know, once I received that invoice, I was like, wait a minute, but Mr. Cotton, like, and this is the type of person he is, not only selflessly doing 20 plus years of advocacy, but this also shows you the pedigree and the type of heart this man has. He said, this was his exact words. He said, I'm paraphrasing, I have the means, or I have the means to forego this. And then we made an agreement that if I was selfless in sharing this knowledge, this message, this leaving breadcrumbs for the next generation, that you know we'll have a mentorship. We have something stronger than a mentorship. We got this is family. This is family. So this goes beyond mentorship, and I wasn't even expecting it. I never knew I would be here. I never knew we would evolve to what we are now, or where we at now. So yeah.
And I think that the point that the audience needs to walk away from this part of the conversation with is that it was your conviction, it was your commitment to your dream that let you jump the curb. It let you do the extraordinary. It reminded me, if I could go back to that moment, of that scene in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think a lot of people have read that book, and it's the one where the little girl is going to the slave master to get a nickel or a quarter for a loaf of bread, and the slave master tells the little girl, "Get out of here," and she stands there with conviction and says, "My mama told me to come and get a nickel for a loaf of bread," and he rears back the whip to whip her in the head, and she looks at him with conviction and grits her teeth and said, "My mama told me." And you had that kind of conviction, right? That if you were given the opportunity, that you would stick to it, and I bought it, right? And so we're here today, and I have to admit that I'm more than pleased that that you took on this challenge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, it wasn't a easy journey, you know. And just imagine not knowing anything about business. You think you know about business, but once you get into real business, you like, wait a minute, the business you was doing was not no real business. That's not how these multi-hundred million dollar, billion-dollar corporations really operate. So, you know, I got a taste of that not a taste, but I got the experience that reality to where I evolved and grown to where I'm at now. I never considered myself a public speaker or or a social media influencer, or even doing a podcast. I'm like, I consider myself an introvert, so this is like the exact opposite of anything. But I'm also okay with facing my fears, and I have enough courage and enough ambition, and I think I have enough intelligence to do it. And I think that anybody else who has that same characteristics, it's a no brainer.
I would tend to agree with you, and you actually got a chance to see this journey, if you will, of mine take some ebbs and flows and some twists and turns, because you were there when my client Zero invited me to go on that world tour on the Viking Sky. And I, optimistically thought that my work as an advocate was done, and that I could go and sail the 50 countries that they were going to take us through, and not look back. And it was during that maiden voyage, if you will, that I realized that we had a lot of work to be done, because there was the revealing of the Agenda 2025 that was starting to affect our nation. And the president went through the shock and awe experience of the executive order barrage that was sending ripples through some of my contemporaries offices. I mean, I was getting calls from people on the boat that were seasoned government employees talking about jumping ship because they became afraid of the cult of personality. There were those who I respected that I thought had a good, strong handle on the rules of law and the authorities and responsibilities that were tucking their tail between their leg and running. And so I found the need to interrupt my world tour in Sydney, Australia, and get back here to the United States to put some insulation around people like Mr. Hill and other deserving veterans that were going to need to come into duty to make America safe again, because I saw some dangers on the horizon. And as we see right now with what we've got going on in Iran, what we've got going on in this nation with a Congress that is it appears to be is asleep at the wheel with their responsibility. And I've already prosecuted that experience. Mr. Hill and I, in our previous Patriot reports, have already said what needs to be said. Right? We've already got the Congress and the House and the Senate to pass a war powers resolution under Article 5 of the War Powers Resolution that needs to be enacted. And so this shenanigan about the House passing another version of it, right? We have got to wake up, folks, and take the reins of this particular wagon, because if we don't, your current cult of personality is going to drive this nation into a ditch. Yet I digress. Now is the time for us to take control of our own destiny. And if we can't control the whole world, Mr. Hill has the idea that we can create some safe enclaves around the nation utilizing a reunification strategy. Brother, let me not steal your thunder. Talk to the people about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before I go into that, I did also want to add, Mr. Cotton got off that boat also because I was going through the VR&E self-employment track, and they slapped me with a denial. Now, he came off of that boat with that and the mission of, the advocacy and the work that he had to do for small business, because he saw the threats that we were facing. But not only did he help me with the VNRE self-employment track, he helped me turn a no into a yes, to where now we cracked it, where we was able to crack open the code. And I've seen the comments, and I understand that you guys want more of the VNRE. So we're gonna make sure that I make sure that I'm tying that into the My Patriot report going forward. But in regards to the reunification, yes, guys, we have to insulate ourselves. And this goes back to a question Mr. Cotton asked me early on in a different segment we had about segregation. We're segregating the good people from the bad people. Yes, absolutely. We want good people in our communities where we can revitalize our communities, insulate our communities from BS, and that starts with economics. And what's the golden ticket to getting the money? The SDVOSB certification. You got, I already told you guys, everything, all the other socioeconomic status has been eliminated or high risk because of DEI. And if you're a service disabled veteran, you can go at the contract. If you're not a service disabled veteran, I know you got a cousin, uncle, brother, sister, whatever. You have somebody that you a degree.
And if I could cut you off there, Mr. Hill, because I do want to talk to them granularly about this superpower that they have, that is the enabler. But before I do that, I want to tickle the ivories of this new oasis that you're talking about. These communities that you are envisioning, where people who wear your social uniform can go and have a culture, have an economic environment, have a security environment that's safe, that's commensurate with the vision that you have, and the question that I'm asking, and I'm going to land this plane, folks. So stick with me. The question that I'm asking is, it sounds like you are talking about creating the next Rosewood 2.0, that you're talking about creating the next Greenwood 2.0. You're talking about creating communities of practice in urban centers that become so robust that they become the envy of the environments that they're in. Is that what you're talking about producing?
Why not have our own Wakandas?
I see no reason why not. And I think that what you're saying is that the through line that motivates you to believe that this is possible is this superpower that you talk about, right? This
Yes,
superpower that enables you to, let's use the term, dynamically engineer solutions, dynamically engineer wealth. Is that what we're working with here?
yeah, that's exactly what we're working with. And when you look at the full spectrum of what we have, not only do you have a service disabled veteran status, you have the government ready to give you money to build those manufacturing plants in your community. You have the one big beautiful bill reauthorizing the opportunity zone, which now is going to be considered permanent, and now that allows you to attract more investors into your community so you can add to that capital stack, or in other words, you're able to add other sources of capital into that investment fund that allows you to revitalize that community. You're a disabled veteran, you have VNRE chapter 31 benefit or self-employment track benefits where they'll give you money to start up your business. You have the
Hold
SDI.
on, man. Hold on, man. Hold on, man. Hold on, man. What you said was there is this Chapter 31 program under VR&E where the government will give you the seed capital necessary to start your business. And I want everybody to hear that, because what this young man has done is he studied himself approved. He knows what his rights are under the law, and so he's taken those rights and connected it to the service that he's given to this nation, and he's fashioned that, he's weaponized it, right? He's turned that into a tool that allowed him to attract and slay multi-billion dollars, $100 million corporations to bring them in as sources of supply for himself. And I'm saying that because I need everybody to recognize that what Mr. Hill is doing is not novel. It's not new. What Mr. Hill is doing is he's taking a system that our veteran community has been using since Public Law 10650 was passed and Public Law 109461 after it was ratified, right? He is utilizing those tools that we use to create over $150 billion worth of contract award. He's using that today, and he's telling you that you have that ability too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that actually, a good segue, because I want to, talk about something. I had a chance to interview a gentleman named Mr. Howard Ross. He's one of the top lawyers in Florida, been doing this for decades. Now, I had the chance to interview him, and I wanted to share a clip with the audience just so they could fully understand the pedigree and the shoulders that I'm standing on. So I just want to share this on real quick. In the background behind the curtains, the man who helped structure those agreements and those documents was actually you. Now, anybody who's in the federal contractor space, they know that when it comes to those joint venture documents or each social economic status, they have different language. So for service disabled veteran or small business, they have specific language that goes into joint venture. And I see that a lot of people say that it's confusing and it seems like a lot of caveats that has to go into this document, specifically when you're comparing a regular joint venture document with, say, a regular small business and a service disabled veteran-owned small business. How were you able to put together the document that's now the industry standard for federal contracting, where a lot of small businesses, a lot of businesses still don't understand exactly the exact language that needs to go into that document? How did that go about?
It was business as usual, I think. I was thinking about this earlier this morning. I met Cotton. He had a program that he did on television. It was the predecessor of podcasts and things like that. And he and I had a mutual friend. My friend was involved in clothing, and I think that's how it started. He had a particular problem Mr. Cotton needed to deal with. And he said, I need to do this. So I got out the stuff. I could ask him questions. He was always knowledgeable of the rules and regulations that apply to the veterans. And that's helpful because any lawyer that's working on those projects needs to know that stuff. So when your client knows, it makes it that much easier and easier to get it right, as opposed to just take the chance and hope you're getting it right. So I don't specifically recall when we did this work, other than I recall we did it.
Guys, I'm sharing that to let you know that what you're getting in Mr. Cotton is selfless advocacy, and not only selfless advocacy, but we're standing on shoulders of pedigree. And guys, this is the official transition, and I would coin it, and I let Mr. Cotton coin it, the passing of the torch, not for me, but for our generation. And this is so we could build generational wealth and we could continue the legacy, because the legacy is not about what you have now, but what lasts after you are well done and well gone off the fish.
That was a refreshing and pleasant surprise for you to bring my mentor and lawyer Howard Ross into this conversation. That was refreshing, and yes, that is an example of the win that is beneath my wing. Those are wings. Those are the kinds of assets that I leaned on very early on in the process to kind of figure this thing out and get it right. And it's interesting that Howard would talk about a television program that I was doing back in St. Petersburg in those days that I called the Solution Zone. He described it as the predecessor to podcasting, because I would buy airtime on Bud Paxson's network to deliver it. At the end of the day, I think what Mr. Hill is ultimately trying to help you, the audience, appreciate is the fact that I've selected him to be my successor as the host of the Patriot Report, right? This is one of multiple social media assets that I have created, and I haven't found one in my 20 plus years that is deserving to take the torch and carry it forward for me. None so much so than Mr. Hill. And so what you're listening to today is actually that transition where I am going to take the steering wheel. I'm going to take the reins of the Patriot Report, and I'm handing it over to the next generation. I'm handing it over to the next generation because I was reminded of a quote that came from the title of a book that one of the philosophers that helped me in a very important time of need in my life, a guy by the name of Dr. Wayne Dyer, right? Dr. Wayne Dyer, I'm sorry, wrote a book that said, "Don't die with your music inside you." Mm-hmm. And the best way for me to make sure that the work that I've done gets passed on to future generations is to empower the generation that's coming behind me. And so I'm empowering Mr. Hill. I'm empowering his idea of reunification in multiple ways, not with just talk, but with action. So, in addition to passing over to him the reins of the Patriot Report, which I expect to be a guest on periodically, I'm also reconstituting the ability to network, specifically to support the idea of building a force multiplier, a army, a brigade, or battalion, if you will, of disabled veteran business owners that are hyper focused on helping Mr. Hill realize his reentrification model. During our last few podcasts of the Patriot Report, we have been talking about our need to employ radical economic patriotism. I believe that we're going to need some examples of some radical economic patriotism to dig ourselves out of this quagmire that I'm prayerful the Senate and the House of Representatives are going to get us out of by closing off the purse. They're going to close off the pocketbook. And once they do that, we're going to have communities around this nation that are going to have to economically recover from this shit show that we're experiencing. Mr. Hill is looking to empower some of those communities to utilize government contracting, to utilize the Defense Production Act, to utilize the Opportunity Zone program to create Rosewood 2.0, to create Greenwood 2.0. And to support that mission, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the proven technology that is the cotton method, that has a value of well north of whatever thousands of dollars, and I'm going to make it available through the ability to community of practice to support Mr. Hill for a monthly subscription fee. You'll hear more about that in the coming days, weeks, and months, but we are looking to recapture our time. We're looking to recapture our communities. We're looking to recapture our authority, and Mr. Hill is utilizing Powernomics as his strategy for accomplishing that, and it starts with that stuff that's behind him, owning the golden rule. So my contribution to that is, one, empower him with the ability to talk to the younger audience, and two, give that younger audience the guns, the lawyers, and extra ammunition they need to succeed.
And guys, on that note, well, I did want to say one thing. If you are VNRE self-employment participant, I want to interview you. You know, if you've gone through it successfully, if you haven't gone through it successfully, I want to interview you so we can understand how we can get it, make it easier and accessible to everybody, because the foundation has already been laid out. We just gotta use it. And on that note, I am Ratwan Hill, guys, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Have a great weekend.